Are you like Popeye? Do you want to eat your spinach? In this video, I'm going to show you how to grow spinach from seeds. Hi, this is Jeremy Stark here from Green Thumb Gardener, here to give you some tips, tutorials, and reviews for all your gardening needs. Today, in today's video, we're going to go and show you how to start spinach from seeds. It's a very simple way. We're going to do it in an actual container, but these can also apply if you do have a garden and you don't want to just plant them right in a container. You can do it right in your garden the same way. But if you've been watching our show, we hope you can give us a green thumbs up if you do like the content. Also, if you could subscribe below, I think it's down there. Hit the bell and you'll get notified of all the videos that we do have anytime we produce any more content. Also, we do have a website called gardenerthumb.com where you can get some other tips and tricks. If you like to do some reading in your spare time, we have plenty of reviews and tips out there as well. Now that we get that out of the way, let's get right into the show.
All right, so basically what you want to do is you want to get your containers ready for the planting before we actually plant anything in here. So what I always do, depending on what kind of container you have, you want to make sure that you have the right amount of space. So you do want to have basically the amount of plants you can plant per square foot, which is basically 12 by 12, is approximately 9 plants in there. So for this one, I'd say probably I can plant about, give or take 18 to 20 plants in here. So for each one of these. So what I always like to do first is to get the soil ready for this is to put all of your amendments in the actual container. And what I mean by amendments is that if you have some compost, that is always the best amendment you can have in there. So I do have some worm compost that I love to use. I'll post one of the videos I have here that shows you how to do that if you're not familiar with that. But basically, I put in a bunch of worm compost in here, and then I basically mix it around in here. I like to get it in the dirt. Now for the spinach, they do need a moderate amount of N, P, and K, which is basically the nutrients that you need for the nutrient requirements for each type of plant that you have. It is always good to have a good balanced fertilizer mix. The compost really does have a good balanced mix in it. I do add some other organic fertilizers to my containers in here, because one of the things about container gardening is that it's not benefiting from like a regular dirt garden bed where you can have things break down and it just kind of decomposes and you can put a lot more stuff in there. The roots can actually go further down to get some more nutrients if it's needed for this. This obviously, the plants are limited by their what's contained in the garden. So you do have to make sure you have a good amount in here. So what I always have a good mix that I use for all my containers, and even for putting it in the garden as well. That is a good blended base of it, and it does have blood meal, bone meal, and I use rock dust in there. So that gives you a good array of it. I'll put some links in the show notes below so that you know what my recipe is for this. Basically, I do go pretty generous with this. The good thing about this stuff is that it's not going to really do any harm to it. Obviously, you want to be somewhat you don't want to use more than what you need, but I usually just do a couple of handfuls of my mix, and that's for this kind of container. That's really all that you need for it. So basically, once you get it in, you just work it in the soil as best as you can, and just kind of work it all in there. You can use your hands, you can use your little shovel or your little rake or whatever you got around. Your hands is always the best thing though. Get it in there and get nice and dirty, and that's what I always say. You gotta get dirty, man. You gotta play in the dirt, just like you're a little kid. Who didn't like playing in the dirt? I know I sure did. All right. So what I like to do at this point is, after I swat all these flies away from me, is I kind of like make a smooth bed in here. And what I'm going to do next, and this is going to vary depending on your container that you do have, But what I'll show you is basically what I do, you know, to kind of help me lay everything out, because, you know, you could just broadcast all the seeds around and yeah, that's great and everything, and that'll work. But I kind of like, for some plants, I do that, you know, for like lettuce and things like that. But for this, I'm gonna just basically gonna have a little, I'm gonna kind of build a little grid in here, and I'm just gonna see like kind of how many plants I can get in here. So what I do is I just kind of do a little sketch in here. Nothing really too scientific or anything, but it just helps me to get an idea of where I'm gonna plant it. So like I said, for each square foot, you can plant about 9 of them. I like to actually let them grow a little bit bigger, so I do a little bit less than that. But if you want to have them a little kind of more condensed, you know, you can do the 9 per that. But I kind of do maybe about 6, somewhere around there. So for this one, and let me get the camera over here so you can see this as well. All right, as you can see, it's kind of hard to see in the black. But if you can imagine, I'm just basically drawing some lines in the dirt, and you can make them a little bit bigger so you can see them. So in this space, I did basically 4 groups, 4 rows, and then I'm gonna do, I guess, 4 columns, and then this would be maybe I'll do 4 rows in here. So basically, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's about 16 plants that I'm going to do in here. So it's a good idea to do this when you first, you know, before you plant it, because it just helps you to figure out where you're going to plant them, so you have a good spacing for it. For the spinach plant, they go at a depth of about 1/2 inch, and the spacing generally is, the books recommend 12 to 18 inches. The thing about this is that, you know, when you're doing a container, you're not going to have 12 to 18 inches of space, you know, to do this. That's more if you're going to be planting it in the soil and you kind of space it apart, because, you know, you have to get to it, and, you know, the way that the rows are. But for container gardening, you can definitely not follow those recommendations. So like I said, for a square foot, you can do 9. That's the most that you can really do in that space. So, but, you know, you can experiment. That's one of the things about gardening, is that you do, you know, have the opportunity to experiment with it. So the variety that I'm actually going to plant this is an heirloom thing, because I do like to save the seeds from these as well, is the spinach long Bloomsdale. So I also have another variety that I'm going to plant in the other container, but I'm just going to do, you know, one container here, you know, for this particular one. But the other one I like is Giant Noble Spinach. And I'll plant the links for these below if you wanted to take a look at these ones. But if you've never seen the spinach seeds, they are fairly big seeds. So one of the good things is that you don't really drop too many of these. So as you can see, it's a pretty good sized seed. Oh, I already did drop one. So basically what I do is I just basically go right in the middle of my little grid that I made out here, and I just plant one, and I go about a half inch. I mean, give or take. I mean, you're not gonna, this thing will still sprout with it. I mean, you know, just don't want to go down too far, but, you know, if it's more than a half inch, it's not gonna be detrimental to it. So in this one, I'm just gonna plant 16 of them. Now, if you're concerned, you know, sometimes what I have a lot of seeds, so what I try to do is I try to go with my oldest seeds, because if I haven't planted a variety in a while, and then what I like to do is go heavy on the seeds. And that means that if they're really old, because I believe the spinach ones, I think they keep for maybe 3 or 4 years. I keep mine in the refrigerator, so my seeds always last a lot longer than if you don't. But I still, to make sure that they're gonna sprout, if they're older seeds, I recommend that you plant more than 1, maybe 3, just to make sure that they sprout, because sometimes they might not sprout. So, you know, like I said, I go a little heavy when I first do it, and then what you do is, when they do sprout, you'll see them. They'll be very close together, and they'll be in your kind of like your grid that you had made. So you kind of know, you have an idea of where your plants are going to be. So you don't have to worry too much about that. But that way there, you can thin them out. Basically, what thinning is that your plants would actually grow, and you would basically cut the plants that, you would take out the plants that you have too much in there, because you don't want them to compete for the space in there. So you only want to keep one in here per like the area that you have for your plant. So in this spot there'll be 16 plants. So what will happen is once they start growing in here, you might see like 2 will grow up together at the same time. What I do is I kind of wait till they both get a little bit bigger, and then I just get rid of the one of them. I either cut it or I pull it out. The other thing you can do too, and I'll post a video above basically showing you, but you can move them around and things like that, or you can even, if you have another pot, you can transplant them in there. I think for spinach though, I don't think they like to be transplanted as much. So, but anyways, you would thin this out. So once you get everything all planted in here, you know, and you get it at the depth that you have. For the spinach plants, they do like to have full to part sun. So you want to make sure you keep these in an area that's going to get maybe, you know, 4 to 5 to 6 hours of sun. I would say, you know, 6 hours of sun in this, so that it does have a great, you know, way to grow optimally. And I'm not sure if I mentioned, but the spinach plant is something that you actually want to grow in the early spring time and also in the fall time. The reason for that is they don't really do well in the heat. So this is definitely an early spring, fall crop that you want to plant, because just basically because of that. Now there are some varieties of spinach plants that you can get away with in some of the heat. So you want to look on the package of that. I don't know particular ones that are out there, but I believe on the packet they will have something about heat resistant, you know, slow to bolt, which basically means slow before they would go to seed. So that if you really want to try to plant something during the summertime with those, I would look for those particular varieties of you know, spinach plants. I always plant mine in the fall, and it does really well. I also plant it in the spring, and we were fortunate in the wintertime where I can also plant it in the winter, and I just you know, I kind of cover them up a little bit during the wintertime, maybe in a small little greenhouse or something, and they do fine in there. That's really it. That's really all you have to do when you're planting spinach. You know, let me know below, and let me know what varieties of spinach plants that you guys like to plant. I always love to know, you know, what others are planting, you know, because there's so many varieties out there. So also in the comments below, let me know where you guys are from. I'd love to hear, you know, the state that you're from. If you made it this far through the video, you know, give me hashtag Popeye, just so I know that you made it this far. And always please give us a green thumbs up if you do find this content helpful. Also subscribe below and hit the bell if you want to get notified of any of our videos that we do have. Also, we do have a website, gardenerthumb.com, where we'll also post lots of helpful information about vegetable gardening out there as well. So if you wanted to take a look at it, you can go there as well. But that's it for the video today, and thank you. We'll see you in the next video.